So before we begin, for those who I don't know, I'm Helen Patterson. I'm the founder of LifeWorks Well. And I was thinking about this. I started this company years ago, and then I went back to corporate. And then I took a break and I reignited it. And the original purpose behind LifeWorks Well was about bringing in life work harmony. And I kind of got away from that. And so I feel like I'm being called back to that. And so when this book came along, Living by Heart, oh my gosh, a guide to discovering your harmony within, because I've always talked about work-life harmony. And the HEART acronym, it's so aligned to me for those who do know me, my with heart business and life. And so I'm so excited for today's With Heart Book Circle. But before we go, I just want us to take, and myself, to take a couple deep breaths to kind of ground us in this space here and have us be present. And my word of the year is present. So let's just all begin by taking a deep breath. We're here in this beautiful moment. One more. So I'm calling in from Toronto, Etobicoke, which is the traditional lands of many nations, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeg, the Wendat peoples, the dish with one spoon. And I've always been drawn to the circle way. So it's perfect to have this circle and invite all of us here to connect, especially with this beautiful book. So I'm going to introduce our author. I always ask a few questions, and then anyone else can hop in later. Introduce yourselves in the chat if you can. And then again, if you want to come out and ask a question. So I'm so excited to kick off this year. I took a break for January, but Heather I met through another colleague, and we were doing the Brene Brown book circle with a friend of yours, I believe, and Lisa Mitchell, and we did a 3-part series. And I've had this idea for this book circle for so long. So that's when we first met, but then we just sort of reignited recently. So Heather is a businesswoman, team and leadership coach, a speaker, an author, and founder of Aspiring Growth. She has over 25 years experience, mainly in wealth professionals and leaders, but in helping them enhance their performance, embrace their passions, and live their purpose. And I can see why people would love to work with you after reading this book, because your own journey and your story of adversity and overcoming it, I'm sure many of us can relate. I related to a lot. So I'm going to kick us off, first of all, because there are people who have either written books or want to read books that come. And I thought, what was your journey to this point, to come to say, I'm going to write this book finally and share my voice and my story? I'd love to hear about that. And we'll just start there. So thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Helen. And thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm having a moment because I'm realizing I feel nervous, which is sort of interesting, just kind of like, and perhaps it's maybe all of us feel this sense of nervousness when a spotlight is shone on us, right? Because when you spend a lot of time really wanting to highlight and focus others, it feels a little sort of, self-serving, if I will. So I'm just acknowledging that energy that I'm feeling in my body at the moment. The journey to writing the book started, as the book indicates, around 2012. And I wasn't really looking for any major transformation. I just started to do some inner work. And in that inner work started an unraveling of a number of stories I'd been holding pretty dearly that were really getting in the way of me doing what I wanted to do in the world. And so early on in that journey, I used Facebook as a platform, and I just kind of share like little snippets. And many people, including a few on the call right now, hello, Rebecca, hello, Alicia, would say, like, this would be great in a book. So I started getting those messages many years before I actually wrote it, because I was just sharing these snippets of insights that were happening along the journey. And when COVID occurred, I shifted to video and started sharing some living by heart practices that way. And again, the sort of the universe and individuals said, "When's the book coming? When's the book?" And I was like, "I don't know. It hasn't landed yet, but at some point." And then I want to say 2023, when life was really challenging for me, it became a if not now, when energy. Like, if not now, when? And it took me another 12 months to get comfortable to sign on with Fem Power Publishing, who published the book, and put that out there. And in between of that, I also wrote a chapter in a collaborative book. And so I feel that that was another stepping stone. In that, I share in much more detail the journey with my mom, the journey my mom and I had from her up to diagnosis, through diagnosis, and passing away from ovarian cancer. And so having written that chapter, I also think was a catapult to say, hey, if I can write a chapter in a book, maybe I can write a whole book.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm getting goosebumps already. I just love this. This is my favorite part of the month. I missed it in January. Um, I just have, so for those who haven't read the book, because sometimes people just love to show up and say, I'm coming anyway. And then they read the book after because they hear about the great discussion. But the H in heart, and each, so for
Mm-hmm.
those who haven't, there's a chapter with HEART, and I'll let Heather tell us a little bit about that. But the first one is healing.
Yes.
And I've been on my own healing journey for the last 12 years. That's why I said about so much I could relate to what you were writing about, Heather, because, honestly, I didn't have a lot of these supports growing up. And I thought, wow, there's so much here. So, do you think leaders still resist discussing or thinking about their healing journey? Like, if, I find there's still resistance there. And I'd love to know what you think about that.
Well, the short answer is yes. And at the same time, I think that there is what I noticed, and I think COVID was a major trigger for this. What I noticed were more leaders coming with a sense of, and they wouldn't necessarily use the word healing. So I think that that word is a sensitive word, but that seeking something beyond performance, seeking something beyond, searching for the meaning in the work. And I think that when that desire for meaning starts to evolve, the recognition of the stories we're holding become more clear. The light is shone on them in a way we can't avoid them anymore. So I don't know necessarily that people, and I talk about this in the book because I really struggled with the word healing. I was surrounded by people who used the term healer a lot, and many healers, whether they were Reiki practitioners or tapping practitioners, like uh, there was so much in my sphere of that healing energy, and I was feeling a ton of resistance. And I was like, why am I feeling this resistance? And I recognized my corporate brain was like, this doesn't align. This is woo woo. And here's where corporate lives, over here on this other end of the spectrum. And so what I recognized is I am not a healer. I don't think any of us are, but we can support others on their own inner work, their own healing journey. And the way I sort of identify is, if you feel you are beyond being able to do that on your own, that's where therapy comes in. But if you feel the sense of like I'm supported and I'm able to do that inner work, then that's where the transformation can happen independently. And sometimes we uncover both. Like I'm a big advocate of coaching and therapy because I've had coaching and I've had therapy, and sometimes I've had both at the same time, right? So when I've hit barriers that are too sensitive, recognizing that asking for help is a superpower too. But yeah, the short answer is yes, there's resistance. And yet what there's not resistance to is and what I'm seeing increasingly is a desire for people to understand themselves at a deeper level than they used to. I think there's recognition that just the surface work doesn't get at the heart, if we can be so playful to bring that in, doesn't get at the heart of what's standing in our way.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful. It's so, I mean, we probably could talk all day, and we will get together in person for coffee sometime because we have so much to share. Interesting because when I just read the brief bio on the back and I shared a lot when people were signing up, but I thought you didn't put in here some of those other modalities that you actually you've taken courses in, right? It's
Hmm.
even that hesitancy. When I first started this business, one of the male coaches I met, he said, "Oh no, don't even talk about human resources or HR with heart." And I'm like, "Oh, screw you." Anyway, sorry, I didn't say it that. I was much kinder, as you know, but I was like in my head, I was like, "What is wrong with it?" And then everywhere now I see heart centered and heart and love, and I thought it's kind of fascinating to listen to yourself. And really, I talk about human relations and moving the dialogue to that anyway. But I love that. I am mindful that if others have questions, you feel free to put your hand up or say you want to hop out. Because again, I could keep going all day, but I have one more that I wanted to ask. Because in the book, you did share a lot about your losses. And for that, I just want to send you some love and hugs, and the difficult times with your son as well.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say to people who are going through similar difficult times? I know when I lost my mom too, I just didn't even realize how much that impacted me because I was losing her for years to Alzheimer's and dementia. But then even her sudden, passing in that experience, like it took me a couple years to kind of feel light again.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
even share some of the practices you share in the book as well.
it, it's really, I'd like to think that we are um, evolving as humans, and in particular, North American humans, if I can just sort of, we didn't learn about grief, most of us. I think there are some amazing cultures and religions that really do teach grief well, but as a Anglo-Saxon Canadian, I did not learn about grief. Grief was not talked about. It was kind of like, yeah, there were a few funerals in my childhood, but like no one asked me really how I was feeling or how I was doing. It was sort of, these are the things you do, and it felt a little performative. Like these are the expectations of what happens. And I think we're getting better at it. I see it a lot more. I see people expressing grief more, which gives me hope because I think the hardest part sometimes, whether it's grief of loss of a loved one or it's grief when you're dealing with mental illness, or addiction or any of the things where there feels like a deep loss, to do that in isolation creates a deeper hole that people fall into. Like it can feel so lonely, and to try and navigate that without recognizing grief is a community. Grief is not like everyone grieves differently, but we don't have to grieve alone. And I think that whether it's parent support groups for, if you're dealing with challenges with your children, if it's grief groups, like I see so much evolving around this, which makes me feel hopeful. Because I don't think I could have done any of that navigating in isolation. And to your point, Helen, for me, it was a year of grieving my mom before she passed, and then the shocking grieving again when she passed, because I was sure I had worked through it already. So now to be a whole other year of just like not feeling okay and not knowing how to navigate, and just as I felt like the clouds were clearing, the challenges with my son started. So it just kind of felt like one after another a little bit. And I think some key themes is ask for help, don't operate in isolation. Like there's no weakness in bringing community together. That's actually a strength. And you don't know how helpful being in community through grief can be until you find it. And then it's like, wow. Like there's nothing like sitting in a room of people who are dealing with challenges with their children in this, not their situations aren't the same, but just to be in a space where the things that I share aren't, I'm so sorry for you. It's a common language of understanding and seeing. and witnessing and not trying to fix. And I think that that is, when someone tries to fix your grief or make it better, not helpful. It comes from such a great place. The intention is so good, but I think being in groups and community makes a big difference. So the work part for me, if we, I mentioned this many times in the book. I don't think everyone loves journaling, but journaling is my outlet, and being able to sit in the emotion and not try and force through it. Like once I recognized grief was a roller coaster, and whatever those emotions were, I just needed to be okay with that. I think I started to manage it a lot better. Yeah. So stop fighting the emotions within us, but be present with them and allow them. And they move much more quickly through us when we're not battling them.
Yeah, thank you. I know having suppressed or repressed emotions for a big part of my life, really once you tap into this work, it's incredible. And just the whole observer, learning this because so many of us don't. So, oh, great. Nava has a question. So hop on out, Nava, and introduce yourself. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. I think my speaker is a little wonky. My name is Nava. I was delighted with your book. I have not finished it yet because life always gets in the way, but I love it. I love your writing style. It is so warm and accessible.
Thank you.
And flowing. I'm also an author, and I can truly appreciate the amount of work and heart and effort and pain that goes into writing a book. So I really appreciate it. When you started speaking and introducing yourself, you said, I feel uncomfortable with this energy of self-serving. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this is such a woman thing to say, right? We are all taught to make ourselves small and not take space, and obviously never serve our own needs and put ourselves on the stage. So I just wanted to say this sounds familiar because I feel the same sometimes, and then I give myself a mental slap and I say, no, there's nothing wrong about putting my ideas out there, because it's not just self-serving, it's all serving, and your book certainly is all serving. One of the things that when I looked at this at your cover, I love it because it speaks to the content and to the acronym and everything. But then I thought, oh my dear, men really need to read this book. But the way it is titled and the heart and everything is so female sort of focused, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously women need to read it as well, because we live in a patriarchal world that brainwashes us. As you said, you're in the corporate world, you're like in a patriarchal mindset. But, I'm wondering if you should republish this book in a version 2 with exactly the same content, a different title and a different cover, maybe saying something like lead by heart, or it's something that will speak more to men and have something more manly on the cover. Sort of get to men from the back door kind of thing.
Now, Nava, I didn't meet you before this conversation, but I feel like this is a beautiful, what you're bringing to light is a beautiful segue, because book 2 is coming in spring 2027, and it's called Leading by Heart.
Yay!
So good feedback that the cover needs to be more gender neutral. So that's very helpful.
Yeah.
It wasn't so, but
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And the other thing I wanted to say was about the grieving. so interesting and so deep and profound for sure. One of the things you said that, the Anglo-Saxon culture doesn't really have any structure. So I am Jewish, and in Judaism, there is a very powerful structure to mourning. There is what's called the Shiva, which is 7 days of formal mourning. When I was a child and a young woman, I'm very secular, and religion was always a turnoff for me, for many different reasons, because I encountered the extreme forms of it. And so I was anti-religion as a whole. And so the whole structured Shiva was always sort of, oh, why do we need that? And as I grew up, I realized the deep wisdom in this ritual, where there is the community, as you're saying, the grieving within your community, where you sit for 7 days and everyone you know and love come to you, and they feed you and they sit with you day and night, and you talk about the deceased and you bring up memories, and you actually go through the stages of grief within this week. And of course, a week is not enough, but it's a good launch of that acknowledgement of the need to grieve, of validating the emotions. So, it's sort of, when you spoke about it, I was like, yep, I remember that discovery of the structured community-based grieving, which is very, very helpful. So yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It strikes me, and I am familiar of the term Shiva only because of a movie that I saw that added it in it. And I appreciate the wisdom that if we spent time learning more about other religions and other cultures and other and I think that I don't think that Judaism is the only place that lives. I think I think there are other cultures and religions that do this better than us, than what I grew up with. I came from a Scottish background, which was all stiff upper lip, right? Like, we don't talk about feelings, and we so I had all of that. But I appreciate, like, wouldn't it be amazing if a Shiva framework was universal? Like, if that was what everyone immersed in the grief and supported through the grief. And yes, 7 days isn't enough. And what a beautiful way to start.
Yeah. And go into that healing, the age, right? And move on through it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think Lovell has her hand up now. So over to you, Lovell. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you as well. Hi, Helen. And hi, Heather. Thank you for being here. I will admit I have just about started to listen to your book on Audible, so I haven't gone through the whole thing, of course. What struck out was the HEART acronym, and I think it's really brilliant how the whole framework, I'm really looking forward to going through the whole framework. I have two comments. One was, Helen, when you said you had a question at the beginning, if leaders resist the word healing, somehow, of course, being in the corporate world, sorry, I meant to tell a little bit about myself. I'll backtrack. So I'm an HR professional, about 15 years of corporate HR experience, and very recently stepped out of the corporate world and got into my own consulting business. And I've known Helen for many, many, many years through being on the board of the West Toronto chapter of HRPA. And I think this is one of the best things that happened to me. So thank you for being in my circle. It's so lovely to be with you, Helen. So I'm coming from what I've seen in the corporate world, and to your question, Helen, I think I don't know if they actually resist the word healing, or is it that they find it very hard to acknowledge. Sometimes it feels that, oh, I'll be less of a leader and I'll be seen as not strong if I'm going to get into these soft things. So I think that is what it is. And they want to put up a very brave, whether it's men or women, more men, of course, than women. But even women, when we get into leadership roles and senior leadership roles, we not only associate with those kind of people, mostly which are men, but also we get influenced and we want to blend in, I think, with what is showing up around us. And, we don't want to be seen as, oh yeah, she's a woman, yeah, of course she's going to talk like, all these soft things, right? So I think that is what it is. And second thing I wanted to comment was what Nava said. Hi, Nava. So nice to see you. About community for getting over with dealing with grief. And similar to what you shared, Nava, I'm a Hindu. So in Hinduism as well, we have a whole ritual, and it's a 13-day ritual. So you grieve formally for 13 days, and people, like Nava said, same thing, community, everyone who you know, even remotely, they would come in to pay condolences, sit with you. For the first 4 days, there is no food cooked in the house, wherever the death has happened. And so, the community brings in food, everything from tea and coffee in the morning to whatever is needed. The community brings in relatives, whoever, friends. And there is a formal prayer at the 4th day. And after that, you could cook and whatever. But the community still keeps coming in and whatever. So then final prayer is on the 13th day, and that is when it's made sure, whatever age the person has died, made sure that there is something sweet. So a dessert with meal or something sweet, which is offered at the prayer. And then that is a signal and an indication that, okay, the grieving is formally done. Like Nava said, right? And we all know it's for the rest of your life, you grieve for the person who is your loved one, but at least the formal. But that 13 days is, I think, with the community coming together, and you cry and you laugh and you think about whatever memories you have of the person. So it kind of exactly what Nava said, right? A jumpstart to getting more into normal life and learning how to deal with the grief.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're
welcome. Both of these practices just sound, really honoring the grieving individuals, those that are left behind, which is such a challenge. So thank you for sharing. 7 days, 13 days. I mean, what I'm hearing in the themes of both of these is how important community and a safe space to express whatever the emotions are that come up. And I think that's, you can probably level for your own journey, like within corporate. Like we're like in corporate, it's even like it's horrible. It's like just come back and be fine, be over it.
Right. Yeah.
And you go, well, that's a nice idea in theory, but that's not actually what happens, because like I find for me, and I've lost my mom, and then within a couple of years my father passed too, and what I find is I'm always surprised when the emotion shows up. Like there's certain things I know, like if I listen to ABBA, I'm going to get emotional. That was a huge thing in my family growing up, and so I know emotions. Like if I put that on, there's a consciousness, there's probably going to be some tears, I'm probably going to work through some form of release. But I'm surprised so often by the things that catch me unexpectedly, where, my mom, I feel my mom's presence, or somebody says something and it sounds like something my dad would say. And just like that, like the emotions just hit you with such a surprise. And I think that there's so much corporate could actually learn from the wisdom of various cultures and practices to say, how can we be better in support of people returning after loss, in not necessarily, do you need to have a Shiva or a 13-day ceremony in an office, but the recognition that grief is a journey, and it doesn't end the day you come back to work. So
Yeah.
I'm so conscious of how beautiful both of those practices are. Thank you, Lovell, for sharing that.
You're welcome. And I think to your point, what you said, that we are expected to put up this brave face, and we're not only when somebody is grieving, but I think Helen would agree and probably relate to this as well. But especially being an HR professional, you're expected to absolutely have no emotion, no feeling, nothing. Never mind, even if you're not grieving, but otherwise. So a small incident that comes to mind is someone came to me and they were really grieving for a loved one who had passed away, and they were talking about it, and they were crying, sitting in my office. And that HR's office is a safe place to come up with all of this. And they were, she was trying to come up with, how can I have a balance? Maybe I can come in slowly instead of coming full 5 days, and all of that kind of things we were discussing. But before that, she was grieving, and she was like crying and whatever. And so my memories from my mom's and my dad's death and whatever, a lot of that was showing up for me as well, right? When you can relate to whatever they were saying. And here I am swallowing, because I was not expected to, be so emotional or be so soft and whatever. I was supposed to be supporting them, and so and many times that I have felt that specifically HR is supposed to be this whole strong pillar that we cannot have any emotions. We are like, you have to be very perfect. Somehow I have felt that. I don't know, Helen, if you have felt that, or do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because it's sort of all linked together. Is that what are the things that we need to change in our corporate cultures, in society, in our systems, in our structures? Because it's okay. I mean, if you think about energy exchange and we are a mirror and all of those things that Heather talks about, some of this stuff in her book too, and I want to go back to that because I think this links. It's that we are human, but yet we are. I mean, I grew up Roman Catholic, so our funeral services, everything, there's, anyway, we could get on all this. We sort of got into an interesting discussion, but it's okay to cry with people. It's okay to sit with them and acknowledge. I mean, empathy is the second E, is the E in heart, and awareness, which was going to be one of my questions, is like, we need to bring these things into the workplace. And so when I think about human resources, I think that pillar thing, no wonder I never fit in anywhere, because first of all, as a lawyer, and then first of all, as a human resource, I was like, I am not doing any of this stuff. So that's okay. A little bit of a rebel. But yeah, I think I cried in front of my boss a couple of times. It's like, she was wonderful. She gave me some Kleenex, and man, it's okay. We need to bring, that's the whole point. The workers, the light workers in the world, it's about bringing that humanity back. We aren't statues. We are human beings, living beings with energy to exchange, right? Anyway, that was a soapbox moment, but Heather, I'd love to hear what you'd like to say next. And I really did want you to touch on the awareness piece, because maybe that's some of it, right? Is the linkage to a lot of people are not aware. I mean, I wasn't aware of my own patterns until I had my meltdown or awakening or whatever we want to call it, and had the therapy and the healing modality after healing modality, and it's still a work in progress till my energy leaves this human form, right? So I think
Yeah.
that awareness piece links to what you were saying, Level, I think. So Heather, yeah, what the awareness piece?
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's an overlap between the empathy and awareness to a degree, because the more aware we are, the more we contemplate what empathy looks like. And so they kind of oscillate back and forth. I think that the awareness of self and investing in that work, and it's interesting because I don't know if some of you can relate to this. What I find is younger generations are coming in with greater self-awareness, but not the associated self-management. It's almost like, so now I know myself better, but you just need to accept me knowing myself better, as opposed to I'm responsible for what I know about myself and how I navigate that. So I think awareness isn't just know thyself, if we use that language, but it's also to say, what am I responsible for, and what's the impact I'm having on the world with this awareness? Like, to just be aware and to make no change as a result of that insight, I think, is only half of the work. It's the recognition that as I get to know myself better, who do I need to be and how do I need to show up? And if we just take the parenting piece as a thread, and Level, this really connects with me, because I don't know necessarily that we need to sit and share and cry with people. And I only say that because sometimes what happens in that space is that the person that is grieving now feels responsible for taking care of the person across from them. And so it's not necessarily like, let's get into the pain together and sit in it together and, like, all grieve at the same time. It's that recognition that says, let me be the safe place for you to express all emotions. Let me be the I don't mean rock, it's not emotionless, but let me sit in empathy and hold that space for you to express whatever you need to express without worrying that I'm taking it on and that I now need care. So I think that there's a way we can be more human in it without us needing to necessarily say, I have to go to that same place or I have to have had that experience. That's not true. And what I've learned as a parent is that when I would have really strong reactions to the things my children were sharing with me, then the child says, this isn't a safe space for me to talk about my challenges. Like, look at how the parent is responding. And that brought so much awareness to me and how I was operating, not only with my kids, but everywhere, that I can receive information and be that safe place and be the container for someone else to express without me going there and now not being able to manage myself. So that insight came from a really tough part of the journey, which is, when you have a loved one expressing suicidal ideation, or when you have a loved one who, is doing risky behavior that could end their life, it's hard to sit in that and not react. But the recognition of my reaction is contributing negatively to the person in front of me, I think has led to a lot of growth. And I think grief is the same thing, that, we can share in mutual loss. People who've lost a parent in particular, there is a thread that has that community. And at the same time, I can't say to Helen, I've been where you are, because I have no idea how Helen is experiencing grief with her mom. I know how I'm experiencing my grief with my mom. And the community is whatever she's expressing, being completely unique and for when it's that time just to be with you. So I don't know if that connects level with what you were sharing. I really appreciate your share, especially around the HR challenge. But I think HR can be more human without necessarily worrying about being too emotional.
Sure. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. I loved that. I've always said like the safe space or the sanctuary, and just to sit, working on those listening skills has been a path for me for a while. I always want to jump in. I used to. Now I'm, Janine, good to see you here today.
Thank you.
You made it. And I'd love to hear from you and your question or comment.
Yeah. So I've known Helen a long, I'm just gonna be open. I've known Helen a long time. So thank you, Helen, for this ongoing conversations. I always find them fascinating. I too, in corporate HR, I'm on the talent development side in a financial institution. Heather, just a question about being that person that gives people that safe space. It can be, there can be a lot of weight on your shoulders to be that person. I'm just wondering your thoughts about being that only person where someone can confide in, and being that safe place is a lot, right? Is a lot to take on, because they could tell you things. What do you do with that? Like, I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about someone confiding just in you. That's a lot of weight on your shoulders to take on, and especially if they have suicidal thoughts or anything like that. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, well, and I really appreciate your question, Janine. And I don't know if this translates the same in the work environment as it does in parenting, but a big piece of growth for me, and I can't take credit for learning this alone. This was through support, being part of a parent support group, people who had gone before me, sharing their wisdom. There's a difference between holding space and being a container and feeling responsible to solve something. And I think to be able to recognize that every human, whether it's a child, and I was fortunate that my son was 16 at the time, as opposed to being sort of 12 or 11, where you have even more responsibility. Like at 16, it's you need to help someone find their own autonomy and recognize when they're ready to do something differently, that you're there to support, not to solve, that you're there to hold space, not to fix, that I'm not responsible for my child's emotions or choices. In the same way that I'm not responsible for another one of my child's great successes. Right. So if my kids do really, really well at something, I think we were taught like, oh, like you should be such a proud mom. You must have been a great parent. Like, actually, that's them. And in the same way as the challenges with my children, that's them. And I try to be that consistent, safe place to land if and when they want that kind of support. But I am not responsible for owning it, and I'm not responsible for solving it. And help tells my kids they're broken. And so I think in the same way in the workplace, it's if you are the container, if you are the person people come to, it's really shifting from like, I have to hold all of this, to I get to hold space while someone else figures out how they're going to navigate it. So Janine, having said what the challenges you're facing, what have you tried? Where would you like to go? What would feel empowering for you versus let me help you sort this out, because I think every time we do that, we tell someone they're not capable, and that's not our intention. But unfortunately, it can create, they keep coming back versus learning how to navigate those things in a powerful way and believing that they're capable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I want to make sure Kelly or Alicia or Rebecca, if you have a question. Oh, I would love to have you hop out before we still have some time. We have 15 minutes.
Yeah. And Helen, if I can just add one thing to that, Janine, when it comes to things, like I also think too, when it comes to things like suicidal ideation, you need to have a mental plan of when help beyond ourselves is important. So we also, like in those crisis situations, have to be able to assess, is this a thought being expressed that is like, I'm having a thought, or am I witnessing self-harm? Am I I don't want to say we don't have any responsibility. When someone's in crisis, we have a responsibility to act.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what they do once we get them into the hands of professionals is, again, back to that person's responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to be clear. There's always a safety plan.
We have to let managers know too. That's part of the work that we do, right? Is to actually help leaders understand when it's time to refer.
Mhm.
Ellie, good to see you today.
Hi. Yes, it's so good to see you, Helen. And it's so nice to be here. Heather, you've congratulations on your book. I have a couple different things, but I guess everybody's kind of introducing themselves. I'm also an author, and I know the writing process and the whole of like journaling, and it never goes away, right? Like it's pulls you in, and then once you have a message and you have something that you want to say, it just um so I guess my question first though is, when you see somebody holding your book, right? Like what does it actually do to you? Like when you see this, like I know what it felt like for me, but for you to see it and then like have like people like when I had it on my bed, my nightstand, and I thought, I wonder what that would feel like for you to know that your book is on my nightstand. Do you know what I mean? Like the actual practicality of your dream going out into the world. I find it
Yeah,
amazing. I don't
it
know. What's
is.
your thought?
It is amazing. And, I think when I was putting the book out, what my hope was is that one person might read it and have it make a difference. And I think when you start to see multiple people hold it and people say this book matters, your words matter, this is having an impact, you just kind of like um it's it's a little overwhelming and it's beautiful at the same time. Like there's sort of this, I was at an event on the weekend and mentioned that I'd written a book, and people are like, "Do you have books with you? I'd like to buy one." And I thought, I don't carry books around in my car, like for when. But then I thought, why don't I carry books around in my car? And right, so there's this joy, like just seeing you hold it up. I feel this joy, and I
Yeah.
also feel like a little bit of what Nava was talking about, like who am I in the world for someone to be holding my book? But I'm like, if one person, whether it's you or you pass that book to someone else and it has an impact on them, it brings an insight, they have an aha they haven't had yet, like that's the gift. It's not keeping it in and putting it out there, right? And if it can make a difference to someone, that's beautiful.
It is. It is. Thank you. Yeah, for sharing that.
Thank you for asking.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And I don't want to make it about myself at all, but it's like to keep that magic alive and not to minimize it, because your book generated this kind of a deep, important conversation about grief and return to work and community and all of these different things that are now on the radar of people, that originated from you journaling and then having the courage to actually put it out there. Like there's one thing to write it and then to actually go through the process and be vulnerable. You shared a lot in your book about your personal experiences, and I think when you're in coaching or you're in a leadership position, you know, kind of, if you want someone to hire you, do you have to be perfect? Do you have to have it all together? Like all of that. So when you shared that, I'm reading it going, good for you. Like you're courageous and you're brave for sharing these things. But at the same time, you're also like planting these seeds and creating that safe space to explore what this actually is in most people's lives at some point, and what the capacity, um, it shows that we're able to talk about it in a safe way, in a professional way, in an intellectual way, in an emotional way. Like you're putting language to things. And that's what I got from reading your book. I've only got one more chapter to read, but I think it's an important book. So thank you for putting it out there and being doing it. Thank you for doing it.
Oh.
It's good.
Oh,
So,
Kelly,
that was
thank
from my
you.
heart. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. That, yeah, I don't have any words in response other than thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I see. Oh, Karen, but I think Rebecca also had her hand up. Who wants to go? Thank you for that, Kelly. Kelly's going to be our author in May, just so you know. So hope to see you back here then.
Kelly, can you share in the chat what your book is? I'd like to
Yeah.
check it out.
And
And actually,
I'll be putting,
all the people who've said they're authors, if you can share them in the chat, I would love to
and I'll be
read your
putting them
books.
out
And
too on social for sign up. And oh yeah, I'm feeling just so overwhelmed and like teary right now of this discussion and just, bringing everyone together. One of my, all these assessments you do is connectedness and connect. And I'm like, I get it. I'm starting to get it now. Like people from all these different walks of life. So anyway, Rebecca and Karen, who wants to go? Oh,
thanks,
It
Karen.
looked like she said go, so.
okay. I want to make
But
sure
I
we
actually
all,
need
and
to
we
know
can
where
stay
you're
on as
at,
long as
Rebecca, because it looks fascinating. Hi, Heather. I'm trying to
Hi.
find you on my screen now. I just put in the chat. I've published 2 books so far. One is a journal and one is a collaboration book with 22 stories from women in Nova Scotia in the year of 2020, which was kind of a big year. So it actually is a Canadian bestseller, and I'm really excited about the success that it has had. So enough about me. I'm in Nova Scotia too, by the way. So obviously, since that's where the stories are from. And I've known Helen for 6 years. We were roommates in Mexico at a retreat once. And anyway, the first thing you said was about being nervous. And the thing that I preach to everyone around me when they say they're nervous is that nervous and excited feel exactly the same inside your body. You just have to name it. So if you tell your body you're excited instead of nervous, then you're excited because they actually feel identical in your body. So that's what I do. And my daughter used to show horses, and all the kids were like, I'm so nervous as they're going in the ring with their horse. And I'm like, no, you're excited, you're excited, you're excited. And then they come out with, a top 3 placing. And I'm like, see, we're excited. So own it as excitement, because that changes the emotion attached to that feeling inside our body. And also keep books in your car, like always. Like keep them if you have like a big purse or whatever, keep a couple books in there. I cannot, it's been almost 6 years since I published my book, and I can't even begin to count how many times someone is like, oh, do you have a book on you? I'll buy it from you right now. And that's like, as soon as someone hears you're an author, then they want it. So yeah, I want you to just own that and,
Done.
keep spreading their heart. Yeah. And also I want to say I'm working on my second book right now, which is a very vulnerable book for me. And this conversation has inspired me to get it done a lot faster, which Helen's been kicking my butt to get it done. But, yeah, I'm going to talk a lot about my story too, which is different from yours, but I feel like a lot of the same emotions. So yeah, thank you for the little boost to get it done.
Oh, thank you. Let us know when it's coming out, because I can't wait to read
I
it.
would like to have it out by June 13th when I'm doing a really huge event here in my hometown. We have this beautiful historic theater that I've been on stage on since I was like in elementary school. And Helen's supposed to be coming down for it, but I'm doing an event about coming home to yourself, which is something, because it's in my hometown, but us as women, we've talked about this today, about we lose ourselves in our roles in as moms, as whatever our career is, as someone's wife, as someone's daughter, and we tend to forget who we are deep inside. And that's kind of the stage I'm at right now. I've been a single mom for almost 15 years with no help. Been through 2 kids with serious health issues, and not of their own choosing. Like, they weren't mental health, they were physical health. My son had cancer. My daughter had an MS diagnosis when she was 15. And there was more stuff in there. So I feel like you get lost in that. And now that my kids are healthy and my youngest is 18 and about to be out on her own, I'm like, who the hell am I? Like, who is Karen? Like, when I'm not responsible for keeping another living thing alive besides myself, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And I feel like when I'm 52, I think a lot of women at this age are going through that, but I also want younger women to come and realize that they don't have to be everything to everybody else all the time, that they have to be them and then give to everybody else. So anyway,
Yeah.
that
Well said.
Wow.
that wasn't what I was expecting to say, but here I am.
Well, good.
So that I would like to have my book done by then. That's kind of a stretch, but we'll see. I published We Are Unbreakable in 41 days after I came up with the idea. But I didn't write all the stories. Each woman wrote their own story.
Yeah.
So writing a whole book takes a little longer.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad, Karen, that you said what you didn't intend to say, but you nevertheless said it. Gives us a early glimpse of your book.
Well, and if anybody wants to vacation in Nova Scotia in June, June 13th is my event, and come on down. It's beautiful here. The Halifax waterfront is lovely, and my event is like 30 minutes from the airport. So I'm promoting it instead of going downtown, go out of town to this beautiful, it's a village. We literally, on our Stats Canada, we have like 400 people who live in this community, in the proper community. So it's like this really cute little village, and I just want people to come and experience it.
And I see the excitement.
Rebecca,
Can you bring Rebecca out? I just want to make sure, because I'm mindful of time. So thanks, Karen. Rebecca, where are you? We're looking at your.
and I think that, I don't know, but I'm like, my screen's this way, but I look like I'm this way. So I don't really know.
You look straight for us, actually.
Oh, beautiful. Because
Yeah,
I've changed it a couple times and I'm like, yeah, this isn't working. So I'm just hoping that you see me in a normal light. Then I can see myself right now. I am floating in Simpsons Bay in Saint Martin currently, after we've been sailing, my partner and I, since the first week of January. We've put in 800 nautical miles, and waiting now for children to come visit and all of the things. So that's where I am. So I am on a boat. It is windy and it's been raining. So I was outside and then I came inside. So here I am. Karen was meant to go first. And so as I have been sitting here waiting to take my turn, and share a little bit, I then listened to Karen and I'm like, I'm in all of my feels. So I'll get there in a minute. But Heather, put the books in the car. Please put the books in the car. Okay. So I had a little something to share. So I've known Heather since I was 13. And this beautiful woman who's been in my life has inspired me so much, because I never journaled. I'm still not very good at it. However, this has kind of been a time for me where I've really been focused on me since January, reading, journaling, meditating, doing all these things to put my body in my nervous system out of fight and flight mode. And so, although this has been on my mind for some time, and this is where I come to Karen, but Heather asked me to review her book. And because she's been writing for so many years, I've been waiting for this day to happen. And when I reviewed her book before I went out, and then I got to listen to the Audible, and then I purchased the book and I went through it, and Heather's goddaughter, my daughter, took the book home with herself. It was like, I'm taking this with me. So luckily I had a spare on my nightstand because they seemed to walk out the door. But I just wanted to say, when I first had the opportunity to read Heather's book, it really took me on an emotional journey, like goosebumps and tears, moments of deep reflection, and just Heather and knowing her. But the book just brought me back to who I know. And it's just that authenticity, her wisdom, and the vulnerability. And so, because we are so close and have been for a very long time, it was also nice to read the book and step outside of, like, I'm a part of her life, but able to read and read it through a book in a different lens, I guess, if that makes sense. And just the themes of empathy and resilience and the powerful tools, and to empower all of us women just to be compassionate warriors. So I'm a mama of 6. And so Heather and I, like I said, we do go back. I've always had this big dream to write a book. And what's so interesting is it's probably been like the last 7 years where I have been learning to be a part of community. Like Karen, I have had a daughter diagnosed with cancer, and she's my youngest, and she is going off to university in Nova Scotia in the end of August. And so
I love the universe.
I love the universe. So I'm like, Karen, girl, we need to chat. But anyways, okay. So in the last 7 years, and even when she was diagnosed, of course, there's this community that wants to surround you, that's been there, that's done that, that's gone through it. I couldn't be a part of it because I needed to be so focused on her. So in the last 7 years, doing what I do, not in the corporate world, I have owned multiple businesses. I work with multiple women now, and I've learned how beautiful community is. And I don't know what I did without it in the past. And so being a mama, raising them for a very long time on my own, I have a wonderful partner for the last 10 years, but my children aged from 28 to almost 18 in June. And it was a long road. And so what I can say to that is that, you know, and this is where I kind of come to this place where Heather's book brought me to this place of, it is time to do the reflection. It is time to take time for you. It is time to be purposeful right now, because the season that I am in is a season of becoming a complete empty nester, seeing how I have one at home for just a couple of months. And that's a lot because I have a very special relationship with all of my children, but her being the baby and being sick, you know, it's like this transition. But what I know is that we've been through a lot in our life. Myself personally, my children, from a young girl to a teenager to marriage and divorce, and all of that comes with it. Loss, lots of loss, losing my father, who was one of my best friends, to cancer as well. And we go through these. Actually, my dad and my daughter were sick at the same time. So we go through all of these stages in life, but we're so busy and in a fast-paced world of raising our children, being in careers that we may enjoy or may not, the daily routine and schedules that we must continue to do when we have all this stuff going on inside of us. And we forget about what we need because we're so busy making sure that everything that everybody else needs is done in the day, and that we show up for where we need to be. I'm sorry, an airplane is going over. That we show up for where we need to be each and every day. And sometimes we don't make the time for us. So interestingly enough, when Karen shared about this book that she's reading, I was like, wow, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I'm not writing a book yet. I certainly hope to be. But the path that I've been on and in a place in the direction that I'm going right now is not only just supporting my nervous system and really working through this fight or flight mode, but thinking about all of the women in my world, or the ones that I've not even met yet, that are becoming empty nesters. And they've been so busy being wives or partners and career women and moms. And life is shifting and changing so much. And we just, all of these things that compile within us that we aren't really sure how to navigate, or whether we do navigate through them. And I feel like there's this place for women who need to read Heather's books, and sounds like some incredible books here as well that have been published, that I'm in this place of, I feel like women need to know where to go from here as they become empty nesters, as their lives change, their schedules become less busy. And rather than sitting in a place of sort of filling their time, but not purposefully, really creating time for self-care and for looking in. Like Heather's book, it's just so beautiful, and that it allows you to kind of step back and go, okay, I have some work to do, and now is the time. And so I feel like there's so many things that are available to us these days in 2026 that allow us to really reconnect with ourselves and who we are as women, where we want to go, what did we set aside and not do before. One of them is journaling for me, but there's lots of things that I've always wanted to do. When my children grow up or when I get older, here are some things that I want to do with my life. And so many women I watch just sit and let life pass them by, and they don't actually deal with all of the things that they've stuffed down for all of these years or learn the tools to do so. And so this book, and I can't wait for your next book, Heather, I feel like is just going to just inspire that growth more and more for women. And I hope that community for all women can continue to grow and be a part of our world, so that we can support one another to live our best life and really dig deep and heal and find our purpose outside of those busy schedules as partners and wives and moms and career women and all the things. And so that was just sort of my take on it. So, and I do agree that lots of men, even my boys, need to read this book. And I'm sure no matter the picture, they would read it because it's Heather's. But I think that if it had a different cover and a different way to slip in the back door to get some men reading it too, would not be a bad thing at all.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Oh, I love that. I want to make sure Heather has a few other moments. Rebecca, I can see the boat sort of.
Yeah.
I love
in the background.
But honestly, we all can relate. My son just turned 19. He's in his first year of university. And I did everything later in life. That was my big limiting belief. It's too late, whatever. But not anymore. I'm just starting. But it's so true that is those journeys, of always putting others first. That's why I love this book too, Heather, because again, I related, that itty bitty shitty club, the noises, the things that, like, this whole thing is so great. You really have to get workshops out on this and get out there because it's just beautiful. We didn't even talk about resilience or trust, but I think one of the things that I had really marked the trust the universe part because I was hoping we could chat about that a little bit, because part of this trust of coming back, it is coming home. It is, Rebecca, like you say, remembering who we are outside of all those other roles and titles and our contribution, our purpose, our passion, whatever we want to call it, ikigai. There's so many things, right? But it's when this sitting with self and the quiet where the answers arise is something that's very hard, especially for me. But so Heather, I'd like you to just, and if anybody has to go, I know people have had to go. I want to make sure if Alicia has a question or something, but I found Gabby Bernstein. I don't know how the heck I found Gabby Bernstein, but I've been doing this. And I have to say, the last time I did this little Trust the Universe again and thought about, well, what do I desire right now? Well, all of a sudden, all the things like to do with mentorship have come up. My book's almost done. I recently won an award and I received that. And then on mentoring, and then I am speaking at a conference in May, and I was like, I freaking finally let go. It's like that journey, that process. This is what I mean. There's so much to talk about, Heather, but how about, because we covered almost a little bit about everything except resilience and trust. So it's like, what is the most important way to start allowing that trust in self and this universe? I'd love you to just touch on that, because I know people may have to keep hopping off, but
yeah, well, and I'll just take a moment to acknowledge Alicia, who's been here and chatting in the chat. Alicia is my business partner, so in the book where you hear me talking about doing the women's retreat and then eventually women's leadership programs, that's Alicia. Alicia, I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you for supporting me and being part of this conversation. because we journey in community, we don't journey alone. And it's interesting because you said trust in the universe, and I have to say exactly where we needed to go in this conversation. Like, trusting the universe is the people that are here, the conversations that we've had, the richness of exploration. We may not have touched all the things, but I truly believe we touched on all the things that we were meant to in this conversation. And perhaps it sets the stage for more conversations as opposed to a completion, because it's just like our journey into ourselves, that the journey never ends, right? Like, there's not a destination. It's just Alicia and I were in a program that was called Virtuoso, and it really tied into this idea of mastery. We're always developing, we're always working, right? So as Karen's writing this next book, and as she's exploring, like, what does it mean now? Who am I now in this world? What does this look like from here? Like, we're always in that growth as professionals and as people in our personal lives, like as humans. And I think, by the way, there's only one type of people, and that's human. Like, we are all one. We're all connected. And I think we're kinder to each other with that lens. So coming back to the trust question, trust in self sometimes for some people starts with, what if you just believed what other people tell you about yourself? Like, if you have very little trust, it can just start with that. Like, what if I actually believed in the great things other people say about me? Because we're surrounded by people who see the best in us. And so we can start there if it doesn't feel safe to start with I think I'm okay, I think I'm enough. Like, trust that will come over time through the work. But the first place to start is just look around, and, like, you think about these women holding up the book and giving me feedback, and right. So what if I believed you? Karen says, put books in your car. People will ask, what if I believed that? So I think that trust doesn't just start in the vacuum of my own head trying to think my way into trust. It starts with a little bit of looking outward and drawing things in at the same time as doing the inner work. It's a in and out flow, because there's people that surround us who do see the best in us. And so when you borrow some of that in the early work.
Woo! This has been incredible. We're already at almost 11:15.
I know.
Mindful and respectful of people's time. So I think that's a great way to end. I think so much beautiful conversation today, and I am just so grateful that we came into each other's lives as well. And I want to share this out. Usually Emmeline's here, but she'll take screenshots, so I can't do that when I'm holding it up. But I did take, and I'll share it. And honestly, it is just people like you, everyone here really, that have a voice, that have a message, that, encouraging each other to just share. Karen and I often joke a lot, because there's just like, the book I've written is a business book. So I'm like, that's just, I shouldn't say it, but it's a little more boring than the real book that needs to come out. So there will be one in the future. There's more in the future. But I also think it's a starting point, right? You have to start somewhere. So if you have these ideas and it keeps coming back and it's calling you in, we have to explore that. And so, Heather, I just want to say thank you again for sharing with us today, for this beautiful, beautiful book. I mean, I'm going to read it again. I will be gifting this for sure. I would love to have you come back again in the future. Anyone, we meet once a month, generally on the fourth Friday. I'm just sort of sorting out the rest of the schedule for the year. Maybe Karen's will be coming up, although I think I have one for June, because another colleague of mine is her book's coming out in April, I think. So if you have any other ideas for books or authors, last year I decided I was going to support women authors. And so every book we read last year was by a woman author. And I just, whatever calls me. So, thanks again. I hope you have a beautiful week ahead. Look forward to leading by heart as well. I think it's just amazing, your journey, and I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.
And Helen, I just want to, before we just sign off, thank you so much for sharing the book, for creating this book circle, for giving me this opportunity to connect with these wonderful women who have joined us today. I'm filled with gratitude for you, for you bringing this conversation together. And yeah, I look forward to us and our conversations from here as well. So just thank you so much for bringing to light the book and giving me this opportunity today. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. And it brings me so much joy. So this will definitely be on my gratitude list tonight.
I have to speak up because I know Helen's not going to. First of all, Heather, I want to say I've been to a lot of these book circles, and this was my favorite because of all of the women in the room and the connections. So I love that. But also, the plan is that our next book circle will be about Helen's book.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the host, asking her the questions and leading the conversation. So stay tuned for that, because I know Helen's not going to promote herself, so I will do it for her.
Yeah. We will all do it for her.
Yeah. So like you said, it's more of a business book, but it's still wonderful, and it's her voice, and she's just so smart, and just
make me cry.
it just has perspectives that I think we all need to read. And I think even though it is more business focused, I think we can kind of translate all of that into our personal lives in ways as well. So I'm excited about that. And Rebecca, we are getting together. You're coming to Halifax.
Yeah.
I have no words. I was like, shit, I feel like I know you. Like,
Love it. You two are meant to get together for sure.
We absolutely will, Karen.
yeah. Anyway.
Oh, my heart is filled with joy and love. And I look forward to seeing everybody again soon and in person, hopefully very soon. Just enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully the sunshine's coming soon and life is good. So thanks for all that you do. And we will see you again. So I'm going to
Right. And I want to say thank you so much, Helen, for creating this book circle. And I've enjoyed every moment and every one of the ones that I've attended. So, and thanks to everyone being here. Love all of the conversations. And thanks, Heather, for making the space today.
Level. I look forward to the next one where we're talking about Helen's book. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, nervous and excitement, but it's all good.
It's the same energy, right? Same thing. It feels the same. I'm taking that away, Karen. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Okay, bye. Bye.